good job or own a house.
8 million Venezuelans voting for this assembly, saying it's actually less than 3.
It is. And people are going to start rioting in the streets.
Was reported to have asked Putin for military support that would help him stay in power.
We will make America safe again. And yes, together, we will make America great again.
And they ignore him, and 8 more years goes by till Bernie himself finally admits to his sons, hey, I've been running a Ponzi scheme.
Does its dominance mean it can use the alliance for its own ends?
Since 1981, bond yields, also known as coupon rates, have just gone down and down and down.
The Federal Reserve note will be your biggest financial liability.
RTD Live Talk. We're live. It is Wednesday evening, 9:36, a couple minutes late, but yet had to get all my ducks lined up in order to go live this evening. Looking forward to finding out what's on your mind tonight. And so as you can tell from today's topic, I got an article as well as a visual aid somewhat that I wanted to share with you guys in reference to projections of the U.S. economy shrinking over the next decade and what it might mean for, unfortunately, those that are possessors of the Federal Reserve note. So as always, I'll give it a second for more people can log in. Once again, it's one of those things where I believe a lot of people aren't receiving notifications that I'm streaming live now. So I want to take a second to just let more people find out what's going on. I myself am not even getting notified. So it's unfortunate that as the show grows, there's no real help behind the YouTube organization to help more people find out what's going on here. But with that being the case, we're going to keep the party moving anyway. Still want to stick to the typical format of 35, 45 minutes to an hour, give or take. And so with that being the case, the title for this evening will be a question that I want to ask you guys. And it's, will the dollar standard end before 2030? And it has to do with a visual aid that I'm going to share, as well as a couple articles in reference to what's happening over in Switzerland at the Davos conference or the World Economic Forum, and some of the projections of what might be happening in the days ahead and how it might impact you, given the fact that if you're in the United States of America, that will definitely impact the current reserve status of the Federal Reserve note. And we'll talk about how that might play out in the days ahead. So that being the case, for those that are joining us now, let me know where you're watching from. We'd love to find out more about you. As well as we have any new viewers, feel free to let me know in the chat here where you're watching from. And so as always, it looks like notifications are not getting out like I would like for them to, but there's nothing I can do about that. But we're going to continue to plug away. And so a part of me being late today was me trying to put out the word on Facebook and Twitter so more people be aware that we are streaming at 9:30. So might have to find another alternative means to get people notified so we can stream live this evening. And so what I'll do as we wait for more people, I want to actually go into the comment section and just basically give some shout outs for those that took the time to leave a comment in reference to other videos, and just acknowledge you and thank you for doing so. And so let me pull things up here and go to the comment page here and just thumb through some of the videos here. And so the very first one, Xavier says, how do you guys feel about silver and gold? And so Xavier, if you're assuming you might be new to the channel, but precious metals is money. Everything else are usually claims to it and some form of derivative of that nature. So definitely in reference to this recession stuff and what is projected to come possibly, precious metals are anchors in this monetary storm that's on the way. So hope that helps. And then someone commented on the statement I made last night about the whole adjustment of the credit score to be of support to those who have no credit, and basically just shine a little light on how the ultra FICO works in reference to giving the unbanked a chance to gain credit by just establishing a generic bank account and basically being able to maintain some type of funds, perhaps, that is a way to help the people that are not banked to get some credit access. So definitely a good thing, but I think it plays into the idea of trying to get as many people squeezed into the system before it collapses as far as getting them in debt. So I'll go from there. But it says that says Pat has some great insights. Definitely have him on the show as a guest. So more people request that Pat joins us. So I actually reached out to him, and we're going to work on something soon. And so what else here? It says, Mike, great to see you. I used to work for Kmart back in 2012, 2015, held various positions and had gained a fair amount of insight into their operations. On the other note, it's hysterical that you put your PBGC thumbnail right next to the right next to the restroom sign. So referring to the thumbnail for the art did the other day. And so here's another little story / testimony on someone mentioned about in regards to the credit card. It says, my credit card company, Barclay, recently closed a credit card statement for the month with a credit balance, and the statement reported a late minimum payment due of $25. So, you know, what the heck? I had to call a rep to fix the computer glitch. So once again, I'm sure it's not a accidental glitch that they close out your account at zero balance, but then they charge you a late fee on top of that. So definitely, man, that's what's going on here. So I appreciate all the comments here as well. If you guys happen to watch the video, you have a thought, feel free to share it in the comment section, and I'll definitely reach back out and acknowledge you guys for doing such. So let's see where we stand as far as those that are joining us via chat. And so it looks like, once again, notifications aren't going out. So for those that are watching, it looks like about 16 and so or climbing. Let me know in the chat. So let me know in the chat for those that are watching. Are you here because you received the notification, or you were anticipating us going live at 9:30 or what? I'm curious to find out because I'm looking for solutions to resolve this matter. And so Tony says he got his notification today. But Tony, did you get a notification yesterday? Basman Awakens, did you get a notification? Says Mike, no notice. Again, happy to see you on Scott. So Scott didn't get a notice. So this is the unfortunate part about having a platform that is ran through institution that's not too favorable towards more people gathering to speak truth and to speak things that go against their own agenda. And so if someone says they didn't get a notification. So what I'm going to do, and actually I'll have it done by tomorrow for those that are watching this and who might be watching this late. Tomorrow I'm going to set up a text messaging service. So I already have one up. I just never choose to use it. But basically what I'm going to do is basically create my own notification. So I want to make sure more people are getting involved and getting notified. So what I'll do is I'll put a number in the comment section, and I'll probably put it I'll pin it to the top of all the RTD Live Talk videos. So basically I'm going to try to make it a 313 number where if you text that particular number I'm going to give you guys, you can probably opt in to the text messaging service. And when I go live, I can just send out one group text to everybody, whoever signs up via the text message, and you'll get a notification directly from me on your cell phone rather, that we're going live, so that you'll be notified and we can get more people in here, because it's unfortunate that, you know, it kind of slows me down a little bit as I want to get more people involved in the conversation. But I'm going to keep moving as always. So if you did get a notification, then you saw the visual aid that I had, which was a graph given by Standard Chartered Bank rather, in regards to their predictions on the growth of our economy, or the lack thereof, and how by 2030 they're basically saying that China and India will surpass our GDP as well as our overall productivity, which means that if we had two nations that just basically bypass us as far as production, then what would make those nations want to use our currency is what it will boil down to. So that's the answer to the question that I put out there. Will the dollar standard end before 2030? And I believe it will, because there's no incentive to accept a third tier currency if your nation is being more productive and far more valuable in regards to the global economy than the United States will be between now and 2030. So I'm actually going to get right into some. Will says, what is the name of the text messaging service? It's one of those, I set it up like middle of last year, but never really used it. But it's just a generic service where you get up to 1,000 free text message responses. So you can sign up, you can opt in. I think it's RTD. You type in RTD, you opt in, and then I can just send you a text message when I go live with the link or whatever, something I named. So it's real generic. I think it really is no cost to me additionally. So, but it's the best way, I believe, to get everybody who wants to join us on at one time, so we don't have this issue of people not getting notified. Because once again, I subscribe to this channel as well, and I didn't get notified. So, of course, I want to make sure everything runs smoothly. So I usually get notifications, but 2 days in a row, it's not a coincidence because obviously something's going right over here. So what else? But anyway, so let's keep moving. So I want to get to the articles and then get your thoughts on it. And then we're going to keep moving. And so I'm actually going to pull up something here and we can play through a little bit. But I'm going to pause it right here. Let's see, to pause it right here. And so let me go back here. I want to pause it so you can see what I see. So basically, this is a graph that I showed here where it says these could be the world's biggest economies by 2030. And it shows China leading the way, 64% of percentage of PPP exchange. And then right beneath that is India, and then U.S. falls in third, and then from there. And so this is what's happening that might be a part of the discussions over in Switzerland at Davos, because it's no surprise that the dollar, aka the United States of America, has been losing its reserve status, for quite some time now. And we know that with all the developments, with all the alternative methods of payment systems and currency swaps and competitive options to the World Bank with the AIIB, and then we got the BRICS organization and all those other institutions that are forming, lets me know exactly where we stand as far as the predictions and the projections for the future. But the unfortunate part is a lot of the mainstream and a lot of the population in this country has no clue that these things have already been set up and they're in place now. And so I think this 2030 time frame that's being mentioned here might be a little bit late, because I definitely think that before 2030 there will be the announcement of another reserve currency or basket of currencies, because it won't take 11 years basically for the world to realize that after this next collapse or whatever it's going to be called basically will be the end of an empire, which has lasted close to 100 years now. And so like all empires, they always end roughly with too much debt, some type of war, and then typically the exchange of gold and funds out of one country into another. And we all know that China and Russia have been getting their weight up for over a decade now, to the point where we don't really know what they're sitting on. But this is what's happening, and this is something we need to talk about, because the question will then be, if this does take place between now and just say best case scenario 2030, what will that do to you and everything that we've come to expect here in this country as being stable, sound, having our living standards is already too high, because we've been extremely blessed for decades of having the reserve currency. But yet, once we come upon the fact that we no longer have a reserve currency, then where will that put us on the world stage? And in my opinion, it won't be nowhere near what we have now, as far as the luxury of being able to go to stores and buy, or basically to run a trade surplus the way we do now. That will not be in existence anymore, which means that we'll have to pay the true prices that the rest of the world has to pay, which will then make things even more difficult, because we'll be using a different currency other than the Federal Reserve note. So mark my words there. But as we give more time for more people to chime in, welcome to RTD Live Talk. I didn't really have my typical introduction because once again, a lot of people not get notified, so numbers still look kind of low in comparison to what I believe people might want to experience, but we got to keep it moving. But what are your thoughts on this? Anybody want to chime in, share your thoughts? Once again, the number 833-LIVE-RTD. Feel free to give me a call and we can get you on here and share your thoughts in this matter. And then more importantly, what's the chance of there being a second currency in circulation within the next 5 years, perhaps, to go alongside with the Federal Reserve note as it is weaned off of being the reserve currency? Because I believe it's definitely possible, because if you look at history, if you look at everything around us, the way that other countries are crumbling, they're experiencing problems with their primary currency. And so everybody's running towards options and alternatives. And so we know how the cryptocurrency sector is beginning to gain more speed as more nations look to try to find alternatives due to a scarcity of dollars in most countries, because people are hoarding dollars in Venezuela, Zimbabwe, Argentina. And so cryptocurrency is or Bitcoin rather, slipping in as a third option, as a reserve or global hedge. And so definitely, we got to keep an eye on this stuff because this impacts our lives in every single fashion. Because for those that, as we've been talking about the last couple of years, the whole retirement aspect, if your entire life is surrounded around a Federal Reserve note and denominated in a Federal Reserve note, it's good to say when the globe no longer price assets in Federal Reserve note terms, that means there will be a major readjustment towards the to the value of your portfolio or whatever else that you denominate in regards to Federal Reserve notes, because basically if it's another reserve currency, the world will be forced to utilize that as a standard of value, and that leaves everybody that's been high on the hog with Federal Reserve notes for the last umpteen years, leaving them on the outside looking in, because those things will not be worth the paper printed on possibly down the line. So that being the case, let me get to some comments. What we got going on in the chat here, it says, I don't think the US dollar going to make it past 2022. Patrick, okay. That's around the corner. It says, thoughts on your AAA rating. Debt so high now, can't believe we still have it so high. Home rocks. Our AAA rating is due to the fact that the primary institutions that do the credit grading, they're all tied into and interwoven in between the government and our interests, not necessarily that of being truthful for our investors. So, yeah, I'm not surprised at that. We got, what else? It says, Patrick agreed. How are you? It says a dollar is going through 106. Tony, and that's the Dixie. I haven't even paid attention to that in reference to how the value of the Federal Reserve note in that basket of other currencies. Yeah. So thanks for sharing that. And that's one of the things I don't tend to follow, just because that's, comparing one pretty much worthless piece of paper for most part to others, which we know at the end of the day, it's going to be a national currency issue for every country. So I really don't pay that much, because the international dollar and the exchange rate amongst those currencies, is being manipulated downward anyway, because it makes us, when we got to import stuff, a little bit more favorable and more profitable for our people here. So it says, I give America by 2025 for the dollar to meet its demise. Goku 992 Sun. Okay, so everybody seems to be well within that time frame of well before 2030, it looks like. It says, back in the 60s, you can take a $20 bill and buy about 15 to 20 items. Now you can't buy 5 items for $20. Very true. And depending on what items you're looking to buy, if it's of good quality, it might cost you 20 plus, give or take whatever it is. So it says CBOE pulled their ETF out because of government shutdown. Tony, really? ETFs. Yeah, man, that's going to be something. People are going to find out if you don't have the real thing, you don't have anything. It says we'd be lucky to get through the year. I believe the shutdown is in the start of our economy falling apart. Yeah, Clint, I believe that we are in the midst of something now, but I think that we'll probably, or the Federal Reserve note will be able to make it through this year, just because it still is currently the reserve currency, and the rest of the world, it's going to take a while for the rest of the world to wake up to the idea that holding on to those things is not in their best interest, and they'll realize that this next round of QE that has to come as the Fed dials back on raising rates and the liquidity dries up as they continue their quantitative tightening. So there's going to be a crunch pretty soon of just there not being enough capital flowing in the system, the bloodline of our system, to keep this thing going, especially if there's no fresh new liquidity being pumped into the stock market. Then there's going to be need to inject something. And then governments, nations will see, okay, that we've reached our point we've reached a point of complete insanity, that we can continue to inject funny money and the world continue to lend us. And so they're going to start cashing in. And then that's when there's going to be a massive amount of a sell-off of U.S. assets, or liabilities rather. And that's going to then equal some policies that will cause problems for the dollar, 2-3 years, or give or take. But, who knows how they handle this. So Nano Joe says, why hasn't Trump abolished the Federal Reserve? Is he the Rothschild's puppet? I think so. So Nano Joe, good question there. I'm not sure exactly if he would directly confront that institution. And so I would imagine that if he sensed that they're trying to be political, as he's mentioned, as far as raising rates in the middle of this global expansion that he's touting it's because of his policies and his growth that he's created for bringing back money and bringing back jobs and all that stuff that we all know is not really true. But I don't think he's going to challenge them directly. So I think he'll probably go through some type of back ordeals. Could be an option for this $5.7 billion wall that both parties seem to be at a stalemate about, which ultimately puts pressure on the Fed because confidence lost in our government equals less people willing to buy our debt. That means the Fed has to make a decision as to whether or not they're going to buy or monetize directly, or that they'll have their banking partners pony up and use some new backdoor funds to come into the market and purchase those liabilities. So not sure, but yet definitely this stalemate with our government, and this, if this thing goes on, kind of spells it out for me that he's definitely shaking the things up to where he's causing everything that's not been truthful and bolted down to come unloose. And I think it's going to have a major impact on the markets, which will ultimately probably impact his presidency. So between now and the time it's time for him to run, he's going to have to come out with some truth bombs that expose a lot of political figures if he's going to expect to have the American public voting for him again, or electoral, whatever you want to call it. It's going to be hard to get votes if pockets are empty, because we all know what the other side of the aisle will do. They'll come in with some promises on being able to put some things in your pocket, make people feel a little bit more warmer and fuzzier, and promise some more socialism type of things, which is inevitable. So that's my opinion on that. It says Trump too busy trying to capture one of the three countries left. It says gold is the standard and the price fluctuations around the strength of the dollar. Yeah, and so Jack, that's a good point there. And so one thing that was brought to my attention watching an interview, Philip Kennedy on the Kennedy Report. He had two gentlemen on, I think it was yesterday, and one of them mentioned that, for those that have not been paying attention, in other countries that actually price metals, or in particular gold, in their own national currencies, there's a lot of countries right now that are experiencing inflated prices in gold in their particular currencies, like Brazil, I think, is up, Turkey's up, South Africa's up. So all the nations that are struggling with their economies being somewhat suspect now, gold is up in those currency terms there. So it's just here in the dollar. It's just primarily in the U.S. dollar, and through the mechanisms that we use to manipulate the prices, that it's been stagnant. But around the world, people are running to gold left and right. People are getting out of their national currencies with no problem, hence the rise in gold prices outside those countries. So there's a website that gives you the price of metals in other currencies. I can't think of it, but I'm sure if you check that out, you'll see what I'm talking about. And so Home Rock says, do you think the Fed will continue to sell the 50 billion plus bonds every month? Good question. I think they'll probably try to pull it off a couple more months, and it'll be hard to pull off if they're not raising interest rates. And so I think they'll have to stop both, which will then give us a true sign that they've recognized that everything has stalled. There is no more illusionary expansion of an economy. And then we'll see more signs that there is no true growth, because in this debt-based monetary system, you can't have growth without debt. And so if no one's borrowing, nobody's growing, because there's just no excess capital, as I mentioned, sitting around. But one thing I want to bring to your attention, the only stockpile of excess capital that happens to be laying around, for the most part, are retirement plans. And so we have hedge funds, 401ks, 403. We got all these financial instruments that have been given to the public as safe financial tools to use. There's I don't know offhand, but there has to be $2, $3, $4 trillion sitting around right now in retirement accounts that's not really been utilized and can be viewed as excess funds to kind of prop things up. So don't be surprised as an option that they bail in those institutions by removing the capital from those books and giving the retirees some type of share in that My IRA program that was started last administration that no one really talks about these days. And so those are all options that could be utilized in a worst case scenario, to find some extra liquidity for these markets. So just sharing with you thoughts that come to my mind on based upon things that we've been talking about for years now. But as always, people, feel free to give me a call, man. I haven't heard anybody's voice this evening. Had a couple calls that I couldn't get to at the time, so I wasn't able to get to them, but feel free to call back and we can get you on here. But tonight's conversation for those that are joining me is, will the dollar standard end before 2030? And then so far from the chat, those that have shared their thoughts, it'll be gone within 5 years as a standard, because there will be some type of option available as a competition rather to the Federal Reserve note. And I think there are already some out there, and they're going to grow massively. We all know that every government east of us, they've been accumulating. They've been getting their weight up massively over the last decade. So we all know that gold has always played a role in anchoring and holding yourself down in the case of monetary storms. But then also with the invention of, or the release of, the Federal Reserve note, the Bitcoin, the cryptocurrency sector, I'm believing that there will be some type of government. And I want to say I read Japan the other day is looking to make cryptocurrency legal tender, which that Japan is another developed country that's having issues. So the fact that they're looking to allow a competitor, for the most part, to their own currency possibly be considered as an option for the public there lets me know that there might be plans. There might be plans for another currency. And so let me actually pull this up here so I can show you and not just give you my word on it. It says Japanese receives, Japanese financial regulator says Japan is fully regulated. Says 5 more exchanges join. So yeah, so as I'm looking here, Japan right now is making a lot of moves in regards to regulation and allowing more favorable regulations for the adoption of cryptocurrency. So without having an exact article to go to, there's something relative, because I see some old ones here. Let me see. Financial regulator considers advising check stream. So yeah, so their regulation is moving a lot faster than it is here. So for those that are my crypto people out there, if you've been following, I'm sure you've noticed that we're behind the curve in relation to this adoption push, and it's in Singapore, Hong Kong, Japan, and a couple other areas in that region there. They already have laws on the books or ready to be voted on. They already got exchanges regulated and keeping track of people who doing what, and so over here, it's been dead, apart from a bill I hear this, set to be looked at. But once again, I don't think they're going to be moving on that no time soon in the midst of all this other stuff. So those are all just things happening, but definitely stuff worth keeping an eye on. But there's more competition nowadays to a Federal Reserve note, to where at the end of the day, as this video, as my intro ended, the Federal Reserve note will be your biggest liability, because the world is flooded with them. But yet also the world is moving away from them. So who's going to be stuck holding that bag? So hopefully, God willing, hopefully not, but hopefully the RTD viewers won't be the ones stuck holding a bag of things that won't really retain its value in the long run. So let me get back to the chat and see what's going on here. Pablo says, if the derivative market collapse, does the money transfer or go to money heaven? Pablo, good question there. I don't know exactly, but I've always been told that money does not just disappear. It always moves somewhere else. And so for every asset, for every liability, rather, it's somebody else's asset. So I believe that it'll be transferred from those that are in the know out of the hands of those that had no clue. And so when it comes to these derivatives, I think it's going to be a complete just meltdown of defaults, which will then trickle down into every financial institution that's all pegged into that, which will then fall back into the creditors of those institutions, which are depositors, which will then lead to the bail-ins, which is on the books of every developed world government anyway. Check your Dodd-Frank Act, something or another. And so there's already regulation in place for how the FDIC here in America will regulate the capitalization of these banks that are involved in these derivatives. So at the end of the day, how they say that, politicians say that the taxpayers will not be on the hook for bailing out the banks if there's another, crisis. But the back end of that is that the taxpayers will end up taking the blow because the taxpayers are the depositors in the financial institutions. So those funds will be confiscated and we'll go from there. So that's what is going to happen. And it's not really opinion based. It's more so just look around us, see what happened in Cyprus, see what's happening out in the European area, and just, go from there. Tony says Japan's new budget puts stimulus first as tax hikes near, but fiscal measures risk simply delaying below taxpayers. Marico, Cody, Nike staff, right. So Japan's new budget puts stimulus first as tax nears, but fiscal measures risk simply delaying. Okay, so Tony, shine some light on that for me, my friend. I got to process that a little bit. It says, what are your thoughts on silver? I hear you on gold, but what about silver? John Mitchell. I apologize for not being more clear with that, but as I mentioned earlier, anything that's on the periodic table. And so let me actually pull up a periodic table and comment on a couple different elements, because it is my opinion. And it's not really my opinion. This is more so just, this is just how it is, my friend. Everything right here. This is without me getting all philosophical and spiritual on you. And the one thing that I remind myself is that everything, listen to me, everything you see with your naked eyes is found here on this periodic table. Everything we use with our hands, even these bodies that we're in, are made up of elements from this periodic table. Amino acids, water, proteins, whatever, all that stuff like that. It's all here. So this is what God gave us right here. God gave us these elements plus whatever we haven't found yet, but these are the ones we do know about. And every computer screen, every camera, every phone, every watch, every ring, every cup, every glass, you name it, is found here. So this is where the true wealth is. And so if you were to zoom in and actually highlight a couple things, we got these metals here. We got metals, we got atomic, we got the gases. And so we got zinc, cadmium, silver, copper, nickel, palladium, platinum, gold. These area here all have been used in a monetary sense since the beginning of time. And so these right here, any of this will hold some value in relation to what we've come to know as receipts to these things, which are currencies. And so if you got some iron or shares in an iron company, I believe, you'll probably be a little bit better off than actually having the paper as opposed to having actual ownership in something of this nature. So silver is on the radar, just to be upfront with you, as well as a couple other things here that may not be usable or have not been used yet. And so, like for example, palladium, they have palladium coins, they got platinum coins. And so, copper, of course, so we know that all these are true wealth and value preservers over time. So, in my opinion, you won't do wrong having something of that nature over these things floating around my head, in my opinion. So, once again, this is all purely entertainment. Do with it what you must. But more importantly, take the time to do your own research. Or if we have any new viewers out here that might just be new to the whole rethinking aspect, scroll below this video. I got all types of free stuff just for you to use as a reference to then open up the doors for more studying for yourself down the line. So definitely take advantage of that. And so what else we got here? It says food and water is somewhat the ultimate currency. Be one step below that are the stores of value. Very true. Very true. Excuse me, Lewis. And then Will. Once again, on the periodic table, you can find water on there once you put some chemicals together. So definitely, everything we see with our naked eye is on that periodic table, which lets me know that's where the true wealth is. And as I had Kevin Massengill on the show 2 years ago, and the interview on RTD University page, also linked below, interview 69, he lays out the different categories of true wealth, which is one thing that really sticks to me, which is why that was one of my most viewed interviews at over 100,000 to date. So he dropped some nuggets in that one. And so what else here? It says everything is fake. They gave it to us and we eat it like candy. Very true. It says off the subject, but look out for the regime change in Venezuela. Too much natural wealth for Wall Street to leave it alone. Deep state on the move. Oh man, here we go. So let me share with you. I'm going to share with you a tweet. A tweet? Yeah, a tweet. From our leader, Commander-in-Chief, Mr. Donald. I don't know his middle name. I'll just say Donald Michael Trump. Just don't give him a Michael. You can't go wrong with a Michael. But does anybody, Donald J. Trump? What is it? I don't know what it is. But anyway, so let me show you a tweet that lets me know exactly where he stands. And so I'm going to actually pull this up on my screen here. So here we have President Donald Trump's Twitter page. And just to let you know where he stands, this is what we can expect. So here's his tweet here, if I can pull this out. So can everybody read that? Let me know if you can read that. So it said, oops. So as of today, this morning, it says the citizens of Venezuela have suffered for too long at the hands of the illegitimate Maduro regime. And so it's unfortunate that our president has adopted the deep state lingo in calling other gentlemen, elected or not, a regime. I remember hearing the word regime under our last administration, and it just sounded like he was reading off somebody else's script. And so when I hear the word regime, red flags go up. You know what I'm saying? My ears perk out a little bit, and I'm like, well, okay. So it looks like he has to play the Good Samaritan, save the planet type of guy, when once again, I was trying to find a video before we went live today that talked about when he ran in for presidency and someone asked him about Maduro and Venezuela. I don't remember the exact quote, and I have it on my Twitter account somewhere in the history, but I didn't have time to find it. But he said, and once again, it's one of the things you can't find on YouTube nowadays because it's just not findable. But he said that we've done enough meddling in other world affairs. It's time to focus on issues here at home or something of that nature. And so that was all fine and good because he said it during the campaign trail. But what happened to that same type of information? You know, what did he come to the realization of, or who got in his ear, or who got their hand in his pocket? I don't know, just throwing stuff out there. But to read further, it says, today I have officially recognized the president of Venezuela's National Assembly, Juan Guaido, as the interim president of Venezuela. And so here we have Vice President Pence. Looks like he seems like he's out there in that vicinity doing the, help staging the coup d'etat on the regime down there. And so this is where we stand now. So when I see this, that lets me know that as a part of this diversion, this distraction, got the hiccups for some reason, lets me know that pretty soon we're already off the coast, according to somebody that, the community that mentioned that they've seen the U.S. and Grenada or something like that doing military drills together. Like what does the U.S. have anything to do with a small island doing military drills? Like, who the hell cares about a small island? Except if it's something to do with what's happening in Venezuela, I'm assuming that we have interest there. And so, yeah, that's where we stand at, in my opinion. So it doesn't surprise me at all when you see a tweet like this to let you know that, the war drums, boy, they always stay ready. There's always somebody ready to beat them things, because if you want growth in your economy, you won't get real growth, but you can get artificial growth through war. War seems to be the best moneymaker. Says governments will prefer their own issued crypto and will fight Bitcoin. Alex, I don't doubt it 100%. And so they're, other than regulate it, make it illegal, or something of that nature, it'll be hard to stop the movement underneath the surface of people still choosing to use it as not a legal tender, but a preferred tender amongst two people. So, for example, if you have something I want and I got something you want, I'm sure we can make some type of agreement to where I'll give you some type of coin and you give me my item. We'll be just fine. And we need to let nobody know about our transaction type of activity. So that's what's going on. John Moore, how you doing, my friend? Welcome to the party. And what else here? So we're talking about the dollar and some recent information out of Standard Chartered Bank. And so once again, as I mentioned, for those that happen to be joining us now, there was no notification given out to me, to my wife. And so people who are subscribed, typically I like to, check the phone to make sure everything is flowing smoothly. But 2 days in a row, I haven't gotten a notification. So you better believe by tomorrow I'm going to have an option for you guys to subscribe via text message, and I'll text you directly solely when we go live. So be on the lookout for that if you guys want to get notified via text message directly from me so we can meet up here and get this in. But anyway, for those that are watching, man, don't be afraid to hit the thumbs up button. Give your boy some love real quick. Hit me in the thumbs up button. Hopefully that might help the algorithm notify people all of a sudden that there are people on here chatting. And so I see something about XRP in the chat. Let me see what that is. It says XRP is the new world one world currency. Hensky, I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it, because I'm hearing more and more news about how it's being positioned as the preferred method of interbank payment, and they got some projects and some products they're going to spin off. So it could very well be so. And the problem with XRP is that, to my knowledge, I think that in regards to transparency, especially, there's no cap on the amount of coins that can be created and utilized, which lets me know the first problem we're going to have with that. And then if that is true, then that puts the owners of and those that hold the most coins in a very favorable position. And apart from that initial jump when all cryptos happen to rise again, as this stuff unravels, XRP will definitely take off. But once again, it's one of them things where XRP isn't designed for the consumer, average consumer, the early adoptee to actually profit from it. So I just got a uncomfortable feeling about that particular coin being in the best interest of the people, but definitely for the banks. It says WRP is a copper of crypto. I'm assuming XRP is the copper of crypto. Don't doubt it. It says Ripple supply is too big. Yeah, it's so big, I don't know what the actual count is. I know what the circulating supply is, but don't know at the end of the day what it's going to look like. It says 100 billion is a max cap on XRP. Hensky, so how many in circulation right now? I'd be curious to know. It says Doge supply is too big too. Yeah, and I was surprised at that Dogecoin. I remember, man, Dogecoin. I remember I bought my first Dogecoin off of eBay way back in the day. And so I was sitting on a whole bunch of Dogecoin for the longest. Now I can't even find them things. That's how messed up. I was just buying it just because I just wanted to get some, because there were no exchanges at that time. But anyway, long story short, yeah, a lot of currencies will be around. A lot will fail. So I want to get to some more articles. And so based upon tonight's title, will the dollar be the world reserve currency before or in by 2030? So here's another article I want to share with you guys. And it says the world's economic powerhouses are going to look very different in another decade. And so this is out of Australia as of Monday. It says the world's biggest players are set to change dramatically over the next decade. So the world's biggest players are set to change, which automatically lets me know this picture here, currencies will be changing as well, or the role of those currencies. So thumb through a couple things here, and we can comment on it further. As always, phone lines are open. If anybody want to chit chat, give me a call. It says a decade from now, the world's biggest economy powerhouses are going to look different. China is set to dominate the world. India will outpace the United States, and Egypt's economy will rise well above Australia's in the top 10. It says the world's total population is expected to hit 8.56 billion people. 8.56 billion people by 2030. And it says with the Asian countries alone making up almost 5. So a majority of the planet will be populated on the Eastern Hemisphere, which is another indicator to me that if you got majority of the people in that region, why would they really want to use a currency from another country on the other side of the planet at this particular time, especially moving forward, as all those ghost cities in China are starting to be populated, those malls are starting to be utilized, and all those ghost towns, which were there strategically in advance, because the Chinese always think 10, 20 years in advance. Those ghost towns were strategically built, not by mistake, as a part of this next world order that will be led by them. They're going to have to have a major shift in their economic model of their people who have been savers for the last 20, 30 years, transitioning into consumers in the same way it has happened here. So they're going to have a booming economy of consumption, while on the other side of the coin, on this side, we're going to get back to the productivity side of things, but to supply their consumption needs. That's what's going to happen. He says, all in all, Asia will experience major growth, with the continent's sharp GDP rising from 28% to 35% by 2030. So the next question will be, why and how will their economy all of a sudden reach this growth mechanism or process? If it wasn't for their, to my knowledge, they're leading the way in some of the more modernized technologies that we always seem to be behind in. Their education system is far superior to ours here. They just got more things going for them right now as they're transitioning out of that old socialism model into a more socialist consumption-based type of model. So this stuff doesn't surprise me at all. So my goal is to hopefully we can get more people informed on this rethinking aspect, because this is what's happening, and this is what they're discussing, in my opinion, right now in Switzerland in these Davos meetings. And then it says here, the U.S. will drop to third place at 31 trillion, followed by Indonesia. And so I'm assuming that's total, what is that? 31 trillion in GDP or what? I don't know. But if China is expected to hit 64.2, that's double what we're expected to be at. So just for all my business owners out there, you know where there's going to be massive opportunities for entrepreneurs at. Here, but more so in the Asia area. So yeah, man, this is just more of what's happening out here, man. And so definitely this caught my eye, and I wanted to share this and get your thoughts on this, because this is one of them subjects that we're not going to really hear much on in relation to what we can expect. And these are ongoing trends of what's happening out east that doesn't hit our mainstream media here. So it channels like this and people like us are the only ones that's really going to be talking about it. And so it says, Bible says that the bearer of the north and the dragon of the east will rise. China and Russia is happening right now. Ernesto, very true. And that reference there in regards to the bear and the dragon will be the end of days, where we are in the during the new millennial type of time frame, or right before the new millennial. So during the tribulation time period, they're going to rise up and look to attack Israel. But yet the Messiah will put an end to that very quickly. It says, America is at its peak. We should enjoy it while it lasts. John Moore, you ain't never been more truthful than right now. I'm sure you have, but just, you know what I'm saying. And so that goes into, the whole scare tactic of a lot of other channels that, like to say, just has this whole fear base of sharing information to it, of which I personally try to stay away from that. And so tonight's conversation is not one of them. Beware, hide under bunkers. And I'm saying, you got a limited time left. Make sure you enjoy every moment of it. Like, enjoy the youth of your kids. Like, knowing that, if you're a parent, I'm sure you already accepted the fact that your children will grow up in a different world and a different economy than we currently have now. Nevertheless, what we had as kids. And so I never take for granted the opportunity to be a blessing to my kids and to travel with my kids and give them a chance to see the world for what it is now, because I anticipate it being a lot different during their adult years. And, God knows where we'll be at as a country at that time. I'm not sure how readily available and easy it will be for people to be able to leave this country to travel and experience life the way we are able to do it now. So definitely enjoy, man. Definitely enjoy. It says, I found that Japan and large cities in China are 5 to 10 years ahead of whatever else we are doing in the U.S. Will, that's very true. So, Will, have you traveled there, or are you in that area? You want to shine a couple examples as to what that is and how that's playing out? I would love to hear that. Ernesto says, remember the United States spend its money in materialism. That's the target other countries want to end, and even more when the United States use a weapon. Yeah, Ernesto, I agree with that one. And it's Hinsky, RTD, you are my G. I appreciate that, my friend. Appreciate you. Yeah, man. So the phone lines aren't jumping at night, so it must be a slow night, or they got something else on TV tonight or something. But once again, this is just what's happening in the news, man. I wanted to be upfront and straight with you guys. Got another article I want to share, of which here is just another little side note, and this is actually out of the World Economic Forum, and so this is fresh off the press, digital press rather. And this one is as of 2 weeks ago from the World Economic Forum, on them sharing the same thing, but yet as we see here, India is highlighted. So the other article out of Australia had China highlighted. Now this one has India as a highlight. So here we have a rupee that, think about it, I'm a 50 rupee, that's probably like a dime right now. I don't know what it is, but it's probably like a dime. And so it's just some of the same information here, and it shows the top 10 countries by nominal GDP. So yeah, man, 64, whew, a lot of trillions. And so it says launched, let me see, it says Standard Chartered, which is where this originated at, has raised growth forecasts for India and China from its projections in 2013. India will likely be the main mover, with its trend growth accelerating to 7.8% by 2020, partly due to ongoing reforms, including the introduction of a national goods and services tax and the Indian bankruptcy code. Indian bankruptcy code, which lets me know that if you're going to have the Indian people filing for bankruptcy, that means that there probably need to be a higher standard of living, of capitalism type ordeals there, that puts people in a position where they actually have funds, or they are able to, or they're probably going to dip into those gold stashes in India and have some funds, but yet there'll be no need for bankruptcy if no one's moving and shaking. So assuming they're planning on positioning their population there as movers and shakers in this new economy, or this next economy, to where they're going to have more consumers there, with the need of more people having credit there. So that Indian bankruptcy code lets me know that they got some plans over there. And it says jobs, jobs, and jobs. So it's going to be more jobs. India needs to train circa 10 million people annually, but currently has a capacity to train 4.5 million. So they got 1 billion people there, and they're training 10 million annually. So between now and 2030, that's only, 100 million people are going to be trained for service sector jobs and whatever else comes there. So that's what's happening to India, man. India is making moves. And along all these moves that are being made outside of us, what are we doing here in this country here? We're picking fights and talking about government shutdown. We're talking about building a wall. And so this is all geared towards the development of the One Belt, One Road initiative. So by 2030, that's going to be fully operational from Portugal all the way to Japan. That whole strip will be connected in international trade, not using dollars. And they're going to be using their own currencies, or a peg or a basket of currencies, all interconnected according to how much shares they have in that, project there. And there will be no need for Federal Reserve notes on that side of the world. Now, if I'm even partially hitting it somewhere in that ballpark of being truthful and being honest where this thing is heading, then the question will then boil down to a year, 2, 3 years from now, who gonna actually need a Federal Reserve note? I'll pause there and let you think about that one. We can pause there and say la. Think about that one a little bit. It says all of the U.S. call centers are outsourced to India right now, and they are more efficient with software, etc. They will be a major force, in my opinion. John, I do agree 100%. And the worst is, I hate getting on the phone with somebody outside this country and I can't understand what they're saying, and I have no other option but to work with them, because that's my only option. That's the worst. But as a part of this shift away from this country to save money, I can understand from a business standpoint how it's cheaper to pay someone in that region over there, $5 a day, as opposed to $30 an hour here. That's only, common sense math if you're a business owner. And that's why this wage increase is going to be problems down the line, because once again, you're not getting better quality of work from the people you're employing, but you're going to get their complaints and their problems. So naturally, you're going to look to automate some things. Says, I heard Nancy P. built a wall around the Capitol building on Stop Trump speech. I guess walls do work. Okay, John. So, yeah, I heard about Pelosi not allowing Trump to give his State of the Union address. So I wonder, let me look that up a little bit, because I don't know how that, let me find out more about that. Pelosi response to not let Trump speak. And see what pops up in the news with that one. Because, okay, this is as of 5 hours ago. This is fresh off the fresh off somebody's press. And so it says, Pelosi tells Trump she won't let him deliver State of the Union House chamber. And so we got President Trump saying something here. And so once again, we got Nancy Pelosi gave a little, it says, when I extended the invitation January 3rd for you to deliver the State of the Union address, it was a mutual agreed upon date of January 29th. It says, at that time, there was no thought that the government would still be shut down. In my further correspondence on January 16th, I said that we should work together to find a mutually agreeable date when the government has reopened, and I hope that we can still do that. I am writing to inform you that the House of Representatives will not consider a concurrent resolution authorizing the President's State of the Union address in the House chamber open for government. Okay, so, no big deal. No big deal. I think it'd be better if he probably deliver it from his office anyway. We already broke tradition in a lot of ways already with everything this guy's done. It has not been presidential-like in reference to all the other paid-for puppets. So given the fact that this guy is not invited, okay, fine. That's fine with me. Deliver from the Oval Office, and just you have more chance of keeping it real there because you don't have to wait and pause during your speech for those people to stand up or those people to stand up. You can just talk to the American people and shoot it to us straight. And it'd be great if you throw in a couple nuggets in there as to, what you're doing behind the scenes so you can keep people from guessing as to whether or not you're working in the best interest of the people or if you got some real stuff happening behind the scenes. That would be my hope and request for our president to do. But once again, who am I? I'm just a, alternative media YouTuber. But anyway, people, as always, man, we're approaching an hour point. And the phone lines were not banging today. I wonder if my phone service was cut off or something. But appreciate you guys chiming in, man. As always, we got close to 100 people online now. And so definitely, for those that joined us late, you probably didn't get notification or you probably did. And so I would be curious, out of those watching us, I would wonder if it's possible to find out the percentage of people who received the notification. And so from 90-some people watching us, if you're on your phone or you're on your computer, give me a thumbs up if you happen to have received the notification and a thumbs down if you didn't, but you just happen to stroll on and see us so that I can, basically come up with another option. So as I mentioned before, I'm going to work on a text messaging service. So tomorrow you'll have an option. Look out for a comment in the comment section. I'll also put it on the community page and on Facebook and Twitter. So definitely just, sign in to the text messaging service. And then when I go live, I'll shoot you a text directly. And you can just click on the link probably and go straight to the video and watch it. So that's going to be my best bet. And so we got one thumbs down. So, yeah, man, I don't like that. But it's one of the things I can't control. And so right there, it's 50-50. So Crypto Grease didn't get one. Tyrone got one. Tony got one. I didn't get one. My wife didn't get one. So, yeah, that's what's happening, man. So I anticipate more of this. So basically, next best thing, whenever you stop from doing one thing one way, you just got to create another option. So I got to be creative, just like everybody else. So, but anyway, so with that being the case, people, it's been great having you guys on here. I'll give it a second to see more thumbs up or thumbs down. And so the goal is I would love to have one evening, one topic that we can get as many people on here as possible and have the phone lines banging of people calling in and sharing their thoughts. I got 2 thumbs down. So yeah, so it looks like it's so out of majority of the people who probably want to be here, they have no clue because they weren't reminded. And that's unfortunate because once again, it puts people at a disadvantage if you can't stay connected and stay informed. Yeah. But that's how you break up a community. You disrupt their communication channel. So I got to come up with an option for that. But with that being the case, I don't think I got one. Yeah, so yeah, man, a lot of people didn't get one. So with that being the case, tonight before I go to bed, I'm going to come up with a text messaging service, and you can just opt in to receive notifications directly from me. I'm going to just shoot you a text, and you guys can just log in there. So we're going to work around this anyway for those that are interested, and other than that, go from there. But as always, people, I appreciate. So Gerald, they said, "Damn, I missed the show." Gerald, what I'm talking about now is all those thumbs ups and thumbs downs are people who didn't get notified. I didn't get notified either that my own show was on. So that's where we're at now. So by tomorrow, you're gonna have a text message, a number to subscribe to, and I'll shoot you a text message directly, so you'll be notified. But that being the case, people, I appreciate everybody joining us. Definitely be safe, be blessed, and stay prayed up. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Expect a text message from me for those that happen to be watching this late. Make sure you sign up And then we'll get on here tomorrow and get things popping again. So other than that, be safe, be blessed. Have a good evening.